Welcome to the Make Vegas Pay podcast presented by MVP Consulting. It's Wednesday, February 1st, and we are going to talk about the Super Bowl. We're going to recap Championship Sunday. That Bills-Bengals game was a little bit fishy. And we're also going to have a little bit of GOAT talk. Tom Brady retired today, and LeBron is going to be the all-time leading scorer probably next week. But speaking of GOATs, we have a GOAT on the pod today. Special guest, Nasty from Nasty Sports. He's been sports betting for about 26 years now. Undefeated in Super Bowls is what the word on the street is. We'll talk about that going into it. And he has a best friend that's a miniature version of Tyrann Mathieu, the honey badger. We'll talk about that a little bit later here. But just to jump into the pod, Nasty, thank you so much for joining us. Tell our listeners a little bit about you.
What up, everybody? I got to do my intro. So what up, everybody? It's your boy, Nasty. I've been doing this, like you said, over 26 years. I got tons of stories, tons of bad beats. Everyone always asks me a lot of times when they sit with me and watch games, they go, dude, you just lost. Why aren't you freaking? Dude, I've already seen this. I feel like a robot anymore. Like I expect things to go my way, but when they don't, it's like, it's like the girlfriend who broke up with you 10 times. You already know it's coming. So you're just like, whatever, but, no, I've been sports betting for 26 years. It's in my blood. I started this whole journey as a rooster fighter in New Mexico. So I had one of the largest, me and my family rooster fighting businesses would go from Mexico to South Carolina. That's why they're called the Gamecocks. If anyone wants to know a little fun fact, Tennessee, Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona. But that's how, so that's how I started growing up. Sports betting is through the Roosters. Fun fact, when Cincinnati played the 49ers in the 80s for the Super Bowl title, I was about in third grade. My mom worked in a factory and I stole $20 out of her pocket, like out of her purse. This is how dirtbag this is. This is how much in the blood. I went and took $20 out of her purse to go put money on Ickey Woods in the Super Bowl against the 49ers, lost my $20. So I've been chasing fucking sports betting ever since third grade. So that's how it started.
That's got to be the best sports betting origin story of all time.
Yeah. Third grade, dude. Bet some kid on the playground fucking $20 and lost. First bet ever.
That was before inflation. That was like a 5-unit play.
That was more than 5 units. That was like, I had to be up 20-unit play right there. She was making $4 an hour in a factory, and I took her $20. So.
Oh man,
yeah. So yeah, that's it. And then I lived in Vegas for 10 years. I've done tons of sports betting. I feel like I was part of the biggest the movement when it first hit mainstream, as far as people coming to Vegas for March Madness when it really boomed in the 90s and stuff. And I mean, ever since then, I've been doing it privately handicapping when it was all overseas. But now with all the states becoming legalized, it's opened doors to, this is the new gold rush in my eyes. So, I mean, start your software company, start your businesses, start your podcast, because in another 10, 20 years, this thing's going to be a monster,
Yeah, for everyone listening at home, make sure you write that down. But Nasty, I mean, you told us about your first bet there, the first $20 you laid in the third grade, and you've seen a lot of sports betting since then. Yeah. And you mentioned this before. What's one of your worst bad beat stories for our listeners here?
One of the worst one that always comes to mind, and it's just the most recent one, and it's because it stings, and I feel like I was on the right side the whole time, is I went to Vegas with $100,000 in 2016. Put half of it on with Matty Ice. I had some buddies there that were like, dude, I know you want Atlanta, but you can't bet against Brady. And I was like, they're like, just put half of it on. So I put $50,000 on Atlanta to win. You know the story. I was up 28-3 at halftime, and everyone was like, dude, just go hedge. Well, I know a lot of the land sharks that are from there. And I was at the Bellagio, and so right next to the Bellagio is the Harrah's and Caesars. At halftime, I'm running around. I wish there's film, and I'm sure there is, but I can't get a hold of it. But I'm literally running around with a briefcase of $50,000. It's a little briefcase, nothing big, trying to hedge. But everyone knows, trust me, when and I'm not a whale by any means. I've seen guys drop millions, but when people come and drop anything that's over 20K, every other sports betting book has that in their book that so-and-so player put this much down. 50K, I'm trying to hedge my bet and put it with Tom Brady. No one will take my bet. No one will take my action. I limp back into the fucking Bellagio with my money, and I just watched the story fucking unfold with Matty Ice running backwards, getting sacked, fucking doing. I don't think he even completed 3 balls in the second half, and it's just so that was one of the biggest stings, just because I knew it was coming. You know,
That's brutal.
Imagine that running around Vegas, the Vegas Strip, with a briefcase full of money there. And on the topic of Brady, I mean, the GOAT himself, he retired this morning. Blay, you want to mention something about that retirement?
It seemed very weird. I think he recorded it at the beach. It was a very weird way for probably the greatest athlete of our generation to retire. So I'm a little suspicious. I'm not sure. I don't believe he's a free agent this year, right? I'm not entirely sure on that, so I'm not sure if that's how he gets out of his contract. But I figured he was going to go play in Miami or Las Vegas with McDaniels. So it was a shock. The way he retired it feels weird. And it doesn't seem like enough people are talking about it because I think the media has adjusted and they saw what happened last year. And so, let's wait 2 weeks before we see anything. Because there might be, let's say, his injuries are actually worse than they actually are. We saw Jay Cutler come out of retirement. We've seen people come out of retirement, so it's interesting.
Could be interesting. And then, Nasty, when the news hit you this morning, what went through your mind about the Tom Brady retirement?
Well, if I'm Tom Brady, dude, what else do you have to prove besides you're just some old man chasing rings? We all know you're the GOAT. There's a certain point where you become like, it becomes almost like you don't want it to turn into the joke, right? Like the fucking dude, like there are already memes of him, like with the apps of him being like 80, holding up, chasing rings. I mean, what else does he want to do? We already call you the GOAT. You don't got to pass nobody. Like, just go be with your little 25-year-old girlfriend, whatever that little Insta model girl he's with now. And, he's still going to earn money. He's still going to be part of the game. I mean, I think he needs to retire. I thought he should have retired last year, but,
So Blay hinted at that. Like, it's possible he's out of his contract. He could come back. On what percentage you think he actually comes back, or you think he's done for good?
At this point, it'd turn into a running joke. I mean, the only place I could see him go is maybe with Josh McDaniels and with the Raiders. And if you wanted to go to the 49ers, he has all kinds of weapons. That's all he could do right now. He's not going to create nothing on his own. He has to be plugged into the right system at this age. I mean, he's the same age as me. I can't even get out of damn bed. I couldn't imagine running from fucking monster athletes, I don't know what else he has to prove. I would say 90% chance that he stays retired, 10% he comes back under the right circumstance,
I think
for Brady, the door's always open. But Blay, go ahead.
I think we saw firsthand, because I'm like one of the biggest Tom Brady fans there is. Like when he played Dallas, it wasn't like the playoff games he'd lost early in his career. I mean, he literally looked hopeless. He wasn't making any reads. He didn't have time to make reads. And he was pretty much dysfunctional all season long. So I think Father Time may have actually, caught up with him because it wasn't just his physical ability that I saw deteriorate this year. It was his decision making. His decision making was awful. So Todd Bowles probably played a part in that. He's not a very good head coach in my opinion. He's not offensive minded, but the decision making, the breakdown in his mental psyche in the game of football is what I saw this year, which was what the most surprising thing was.
Yeah, I mean, look at his story, 23-year NFL career. That's super long for any career in the NFL. I mean, shout out to him. He's still the GOAT, whether he retires or whether he comes back, still the GOAT in my book. But let's go on and talk about some of these NFL Championship Sunday games. But before we do, you are listening to the Make Vegas Pay podcast presented by MVP Consulting. If you're listening to us on our YouTube right now, subscribe to Make Vegas Pay. You can check out the links in our description. We got a TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as a Telegram group you can come in and talk about some sports betting. Also, check out our merch at makevegaspay.com. So let's jump in and recap Championship Sunday. I think the first game we need to touch here is the Bengals-Chiefs game. This is the game that everyone was watching. It's been the closest game of the playoffs over the past 6 games since Brady played the Cowboys. I'm going to jump into it right now. Blay, when you watched this game, what were you thinking about, and why was it the refs?
I was thinking about, we told you so. as egotistical as that is. We just saw the books get crushed last week. We saw public and sharp unification on Philadelphia. Philadelphia absolutely blows the wheels off San Francisco. So Cincinnati, which was already very public, majority of the handle on the money line and spread was on Cincinnati. So we see Cincinnati become a massive liability to Vegas and the sports books. And so you have Torbert reffing that game, notorious referee for, making questionable calls in big games. And you started to see in the second half the momentum turn around. And I think it was really based solely on the flags. I think Cincinnati was better than Kansas City. I wanted to bet on Cincinnati to win the game, but I couldn't because I just saw how things were shaping up to be. And then you saw in the second half, the defensive holding penalty has become like the weapon for the referees to use. So like anytime it's a key 3rd and 7 and Mahomes needs to pick up a first down, they're throwing the flag before he even throws the ball, after he throws the ball. So you definitely saw the refs play a much bigger impact in that game. If the refs had been, I think, fair to both teams, I think Cincinnati wins that game. Joe Burrow had a rough second half, but he's always has a rough second half or first half, or he had a rough first half, and he always has a rough first half against Kansas City. And then you saw them get clicking, and he's getting in rhythm in the second half, him and Jamar Chase, and so it was kind of disappointing to see. I mean, it was good for me because I bet on Kansas City, but it was kind of disappointing to see the refs take that much of an ownership stake in the outcome of that game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I feel like I saw the refs more than I saw the players. Nasty, what did you see in that game?
I'm the biggest one to call this shit out, guys. I'm somebody that's super transparent, and I'll tell you, I win games nowadays. If you go back 20 years from now, guys, and you watch the same type of NFC championship, AFC championship, you see flags, but it's just like you don't see flags where it's just like game-changing fucking flags. Like 50 yards, it was 9 penalties to like 5 penalties, right? And 50 of the yards the Bengals were on were to move the chains or to help Kansas City get into a better position or keep the fucking ball moving. And with that being said, I mean, when you watch that, it's hard for me to sit there and go, guys, this shit is starting to be riggy. Like and I'm not saying like there's a script that comes across everyone's fucking desk and everyone has to agree on it or whatever. I don't know whose hand's in the pot. It could be the refs. We saw what happened in the NBA where a ref went to federal prison for, shaving points or doing whatever he does. Whatever it's happening, it's just like last year when Kansas City was completely under control of that game. And then in the second half, Kansas City couldn't do anything against, you know what I mean? Like how did those two teams come out differently? And I know the younger generation goes, oh, they're making adjustments. Listen, that's not how football works. You can make a small adjustment on something, but it doesn't affect the game where you cannot, it handicaps you completely. So watching that game, I have to say, and I tell everyone, they go, every time Nasty loses, he says it's rigged. No, I'm saying my money was on Kansas City. I had about between 25 to $3,000 on it. And I won on a rigged game in my eyes. I mean, a lot of people don't want to hear that, but guys, go back and just watch the playoffs 20 years ago. And you'll be like, this shit just doesn't, a lot of shit doesn't make sense anymore.
And that's what
there's so many flags on that game. It was crazy. The refs were taking over. I mean, the Chiefs got 3 3rd and 9s in a row. Of course, the refs did make a couple correct calls. They took off that Kadarius Toney touchdown. I know there's a lot of first TD bettors that were sweating. And then also, I mean, you just don't touch the quarterback. The last person you want to touch is Patrick Mahomes, and then the Bengals are over there knocking him out of bounds and throwing him to the ground. So maybe those were the two right calls out of everything else. But I agree with you. It was rigged. Blay, what did you see?
So I think on the last, I saw this coming. As soon as he was running to the sideline and if they even touched him, I was like, this game is over. And I agree that, was it a penalty in the regular season? Yes. But do you really want a referee literally deciding the outcome of a game? That is a play where Mahomes is not injured. He's barely touched out of bounds. He's still running out of bounds. That's not a play that warrants a flag that decides the AFC Championship game. That's just such a shitty way to basically determine an outcome. And so when we try to explain to the general population that views our content, the public, I guess you could say. It's like, look, we won this bet. We bet on Kansas City, so we're not saying it's, like McNasty said, we're not saying it's rigged, but the logical approach to kind of convert people to our way of thinking, I think, is, look, every year there's a handful of games where there is an outcome that is preferred by the higher powers that be, whether that be the sports books, whether that be the NFL and their product, whatever it is. There's always, it seems like the referees are pushed to make calls to achieve a certain outcome. Is the game scripted play for play? Probably not. But you can't watch this game and logically sit here and think that this game isn't being called in favor of one team versus the other. It's impossible. I mean, it's irrational. I think it's crazy to think that it's not, like, from what we saw.
Yeah, just crazy there. But, refs aside, I mean, we could sit here and talk about the refs all day, and I don't disagree with you guys. But, I mean, Mahomes on one ankle still looks elite. I mean, he was making those passes. You're on one ankle. You got these huge guys chasing after you. But that Mahomes and Kelsey connection is not going to fade anywhere soon. So, speaking on Mahomes, like, do you think he'll still have that energy? Do you guys think we'll be healthy enough for the Super Bowl?
I'll go first on this one. I think, 2 weeks is a long time to get ready. A lot of rest. They have probably the best medical staff that any sports facilities could have in the NFL. $1 billion. You guys know the power of the NFL. Will he be 100%? I don't think so. But 2 weeks is a long time to get right. I think the storyline here is that defense of the Eagles is very aggressive. They're the number one defense as far as sacks and interceptions and putting pressure on a quarterback. They're going to have their hands full. Kansas City's going to have their hand full, and he better be on his P's and Q's and not just be standing around too long.
What the Chiefs cannot allow to happen is what they did in the Bucs when they played the Bucs in the Super Bowl a few years back. Andy Reid's inability to run the football with Pacheco. Pacheco is a more than serviceable running back. He's twitchy. He's got power. He's got speed. He's a good running back. And their unwillingness to run the ball is shocking. Now, Cincinnati has a good run defense, and a lot of that was, he's getting tackled by the defensive, like, he's not getting yards. They're not running the ball effectively. But if you go into Philadelphia, who already has an elite stacked front seven, and you don't try to at least establish the run, and you drop Patrick Mahomes back 50 times in this game, and sure, his ankle might be 90%, but all it takes is one hit from Fletcher Cox or Josh Sweat or Hassan Reddick, who's playing out of his mind. One sack, and it brings it back up. It irritates it. And I saw that in the game. I saw him get hit a few times, and he starts to wobble a little bit because he starts the game at 90%. But what's the status of his ankle in the third quarter after he's been sacked twice? That's the question. And that if they drop him back 50 times against Philadelphia and they don't run the ball, they're not winning this game. It's not going to happen, I promise. Because the magic that they had against Cincinnati, Philadelphia's defense and Cincinnati's defense, while Cincinnati's defense is coached well and plays above how well their skill level is, in my opinion, Philadelphia's defense is completely different. They have superstars everywhere. They have the deepest defensive line we've ever seen. Ndamukong Suh is a fucking backup on this team. Their defensive line is fast and aggressive. And so their game plan going into this game has got to be very sharp. If Andy Reid goes in and he kind of takes this rivalry he has with the Eagles to, kind of vain, and he plays with his ego and he just wants to throw the ball all over the place, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I can totally see it there. One thing I did want to mention about the Chiefs-Bengals game before we move on to the Eagles and Niners game here. Travis Kelce is that dude. He was sick all last week. He came into play. I know Blay made some money off the first touchdown there. But, he played great this game. Hall of Famer for sure. How do you think he'll look like going into the Super Bowl?
I think you're going to see go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go. To me, it's my answer is real short, and then you can have the mic. But Kelce is Mahomes' boy. You know that for years now. They're best friends. They hang out off the thing. That's when he takes that snap, he's looking to see where he's at probably every single time. The Eagles, don't be surprised if you think the Eagles are not going to set under and over on Kelce and hope that their defense can get to Mahomes before he could get to his second or third check down. So Andy Reid better, like you said, Andy Reid better have a game plan to get that ball out fast and have a lot of fucking hot routes, or it's going to be a long night for Mahomes.
Exactly. I don't think the Chiefs are going to have the ability to attack the perimeter in this game. MVS he's not a game-changing receiver. Tony's banged up. McCole Hardman's probably not going to play. They don't have a lot of options on the edge. And the Eagles defend the tight end position pretty well. They have good safeties. They have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They have Nakobe Dean. They have Kaiser White. They have a bunch of linebackers who can cover the tight end. So if they invest a bunch of defensive resources into slowing Travis Kelce down, and all that's going to do is it's like a wreck on the interstate. It just compounds and builds up because now Mahomes has to sit back in the pocket for an additional 3 to 4 seconds, try to read the defense against the best defensive line in the NFL while not having the ability to attack the perimeter. So it's not a good look for Kansas City, really. It's not a great matchup at all.
Yeah, so we'll talk about more of that when we talk about the Super Bowl here. But I really wanted to quickly recap the Eagles-Niners game. Not a lot to talk about here. The Niners did draw a lot of flags on their end, so maybe the refs were a little bit involved. But Philly looked good. Philly looked great. I mean, it's tough to see Brock Purdy go out with an injury like that, and then having to see McCaffrey line up under center and just throw a ball out into no man's land. So it was a crazy game there. Nasty, you got the Eagles jersey on, so I'll let you start here. What did you see in this game? I'm sure you loved seeing them blow out the Niners here, but what were your thoughts?
My thoughts were I did not see. I told everyone on TikTok, on YouTube, on Twitter, wherever people were finding me, people in the streets that come up to me, I was like, listen, I'm ready for this Purdy kid to have his game where he's just like an ordinary 23-year-old. Did we not see that through the whole game? Yeah, he got hurt, but he got hurt because the Eagles defense caused it. It's not like he slipped on a bottle on the sideline. The defense got to him. They put, grown men, threw him to the ground, got his arm bent back. So that's a cause from the Eagles defense. After that, the Eagles offense did what they did. They got a couple of short fields from some turnovers, but you capitalize on that shit. So, I mean, I've been an Eagles fan since 1978, since I was born. I have Eagles jersey, Eagles everything from my family. And I mean, this is only our fourth trip to the Super Bowl. We've lost 2, won 1. Here we are again. I always tell everyone, because I don't want anyone to ever think I'm a homer, because these guys are all millionaires. When these guys take the field, I have a team, but if my team isn't the right play, I'm not putting my money on it. As of now, I'm 90% positive I'm dropping 20 to 25K all over the Eagles. I have some player props that I love, but I think this is just a time that I really get to bet on the Eagles and cheer for my team. So,
absolutely, that sounds dope. And Blay, your thoughts on the game?
yeah.
I mean, I said earlier in the week, if San Francisco, take the injury completely out of it, if Brock Purdy plays the whole game, they're still getting the shit beat out of them. If the Niners go down, similar situation to what I think the Chiefs, when they play the Eagles in the Super Bowl, will be. If the Niners go down 2 scores early, the Eagles' ability to run the ball and rush the passer really prevents teams from coming back against them. That's why they're blowing people out. They're not blowing people out because are the Giants a little bit overrated? Probably, but Brian Daboll is an elite head coach, and they weren't able to do anything. If Shanahan cannot run the ball against the Eagles' defense, I'm telling you right now, the Chiefs' defense, or Andy Reid is not going to be able to run the ball against Philly's defense. But I have a question. As an Eagles fan, where do you sit on Sirianni? Like, I think he has elevated himself this year to a different tier of coaching. Like, he is one of the elite coaches in the NFL now. Where do you sit on him?
1,000%. I like him a lot. I like the fiery. I like I like coaches that are engaged with their players. Like when you watch Andy Reid, even when he was an Eagles coach for 14 years, and I watched the Eagles, and I told everyone as an Eagles fan, McNabb will never get us a Super Bowl. He got us there, but what happened in that last 2-minute drive against Brady? He showed why we'll never win a Super Bowl, and I was completely right. But Andy Reid, I'm somebody that wants to be part of a team. And when I look at what we have now compared to what Andy Reid is, kind of just like he just carries his little scorecard, and he's not a presence on the sideline. What you get out of the Eagles coaching staff now is complete engagement with the players. It looks like they want to win for him. The Eagles look like a bunch of dogs, and the coach is part of the dog pound. Like, he's jumping into everyone. He's riled up. He's cussing at the fucking refs. I mean, he's just part of the fiery team. And when you have that, you're not afraid to take chances with, as a player. So, I mean, give me the dogs. And I'm not even saying this. If it was the other way around, I would say it. I'd say Kansas City looks like a bunch of dogs. I'm not just saying it because it's my team, but I like a fiery team with a fiery coaching staff. It always resonates with me.
I mean, someone sitting like in an office in ESPN, they'll criticize coaches like Sirianni for being too emotional, but something that's underrated is his ability, like coach's ability to inspire momentum, which is something that is not able to be tracked by computers and things like that. But the ability to inspire momentum and turn games around is very underrated. And so the big edge for the Chiefs in this game that's supposed to be is the quarterback and the head coach. But it's the edge really, now that Mahomes' ankle's a little banged up, Hurts has played out of his fucking mind this year. Every time Hurts has needed to step up this year and play well, he's done it. If they have Jalen Hurts against Dallas late in the season, they win that game. He's not playing down to competition. Jalen Hurts is elevating himself, and Sirianni is elevating the team, the offense as a whole, because they're putting up points on everyone. If the Niners defense, sure, the Niners defense was, demoralized in the second half, but they have D'Amico Ryans, who's like Sirianni, but on defense. The Eagles schematically on offense right now, like Sirianni's schematics on offense are on a different level. I mean, he outcoached Shanahan tenfold in that game, no doubt about it.
Yeah, so it looks like I think we're ready to talk about the Super Bowl now. But before we do, you are listening to the Make Vegas Pay podcast presented by MVP Consulting. Check out our links in the description. You can join our Telegram, buy some really cool merch, or just get a couple of nice picks from Blay and Swice here, our boys. So looking at this early Super Bowl preview, we know we got a weeks away from that. I want to just throw this question up to both of you, but how much do you think the get-in price to the Super Bowl in Arizona is for one ticket?
For one ticket, I'm assuming nosebleed's got to be, $1,500, $2,000 a ticket. I didn't even look.
Blay, what's your guess here?
I have no idea. I mean, Eagles fans, they love their team, so they're going to watch that game. It could be fucking $10,000, and construction worker in Pennsylvania, he's going to watch that fucking game. They love their team.
So right now, I checked in the prices to get in to the game. For a nosebleed, just to even get into the stadium, it's $5,562 to get in. So make sure you place your bets this week, win some money so you can afford a ticket at the Super Bowl at State Farm Stadium there. So that's the get-in price. But let's talk about some of these Super Bowl storylines. The Kelce Bowl. Let's start there. You got Travis Kelce on the Chiefs, Jason Kelce on the Eagles. One is Patrick Mahomes' dude, and the other one is snapping the ball to Jalen Hurts. So when you guys hear that storyline of just brothers going at it, I mean, the NFL eats that up, right?
Definitely. When you have Kelce on Kelce, everyone loves the Kelce brothers, right? You love the fiery little center, and then you love the best tight end in the game, right? But when you think of it, I'm somebody that goes down the rabbit hole, guys. I love to go down and try to find my angles and what the storyline is, and I don't know if you want me to get into this, but the Kelce brothers, I think they both wash each other out. They both have Super Bowl rings already. And I think that you might see both Kelce brothers might retire after this year. No matter what happens, they started their little popular podcast together. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. That's picking up a lot of momentum, and I think they're going to move into the media aspect as far as sports betting, sports talk, sports media. But as far as that, I think it's a cool story, but it's not the main story of what rabbit hole I'm chasing. And so if you want to get into that, I'll answer that in a minute. But I think it's a cool story, but it's not the main story.
Right, yeah, just for the listeners there, I know Travis Kelce was really fired up after that Bengals-Chiefs game, calling the Cincinnati mayor a jabroni on national television. I mean, how embarrassed you got to be if you're that mayor. But Blay, on that Kelce storyline, I know it's not that big, but we can move on. Is Jalen Hurts that guy now? Is he him?
I mean, I think he's elevated himself into, a top 10. I'm not ready to say he's a top 5 quarterback yet. Did he play like a top 5 quarterback this season? Absolutely. But the NFL is more like the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL now are better than they've ever been. I mean, you have guys like Justin Herbert who are fringe top 5 guys, and he's an animal. But Hurts's escapability and his kind of, I wouldn't call him a gunslinger, but his ability to just kind of get out of trouble is something that really helps the Eagles out. So, I mean, if he's getting pressure and his reads aren't open, they're not running an RPO, I mean, how easy is it for him to scamper out of bounds for 4 or 5 yards? And when you're lining up consistently in 2nd and 6 rather than 2nd and 10, because Mahomes has escapability, but these pocket passers have to throw the ball away, you're losing it down. And so the Eagles do a very good job of managing the downs. They're always ahead of the downs. They're always in 2nd and 3 and 2nd and 6, things like that. That's what keeps them. That's why they eat up clock and they blow teams out, because teams don't have the fucking time in the game to score.
Right. And Nasty, I'm going to pass this over to you, but I know you mentioned quarterbacks like McNabb. Like, he's not going to win you a Super Bowl. Anyone can give you a quarterback's name and you could probably tell them if they're Super Bowl worthy or not. Sure. I say the name Jalen Hurts. Can he win them a Super Bowl?
Absolutely. Multiple Super Bowls. I mean, when I look at Jalen Hurts, has he blossomed more than I thought when we drafted him? I was excited, but because I knew, the dynamic of the power he has. I didn't think he was a great pocket quarterback, but what he's turned into has really showed me, like, the leadership, the video clips that I see of him hyping up the squad before the game. Everyone listens. Everyone gets quiet when he speaks. The way he handles himself at press conferences. It never seems like the moment's too big for him. I don't ever see him like really panic, and the ability to take off and make smart plays. I see him now like not trying to do too much. Some quarterbacks, when they take off, they're trying to do too much. When he could get what he could get, he gets out of bounds. When he, thinks that he could blow forward, he tries to blow forward. But I think he could get Philly too. And I think it starts, in a couple of weeks. I think we get our first one.
He reminds me
There we go. Jalen Hurts to get Philly too. You heard it first. Blay, your thoughts on that?
He reminds me a little bit of Russell Wilson early in his career.
Sure, yeah.
I'm sitting here reading a list before the season. You have Jalen Hurts. Most sports writers have him bottom 12, bottom 10 quarterback. And now you look and it's like, would you rather have him or Kyler Murray? It's not even a fucking question at this point.
No.
Just not even, I mean, the leadership alone, but the talent. I mean, Kyler's super talented, but Hurts has elevated himself into, the top 10 conversation, and he's pushing top 7, top 6. I don't want to hear about Dak Prescott. I don't want to hear about Kirk Cousins. I don't want to hear about any of those guys in the same conversation as Jalen Hurts. I know that might be a hot take for some people that are super analytical, but Jalen Hurts is playing on a different level right now.
There we go. So I think you have it. Jalen Hurts is him, and we'll find out during the Super Bowl next week. Moving on to the next storyline, we were talking about coaches, but it's the Andy Reid Bowl. Andy Reid has spent a lot of time with the Philadelphia Eagles organization. He's with the Chiefs now. The storyline would be, wow, going back to a place where he couldn't get it done to win the Super Bowl. But Nasty, your thoughts on some of the storylines that revolve around Andy Reid?
Right, that's what I was getting into. Right, you have the Kelsey brother story about the Super Bowl. I want to wash that out, like I said before, because they both got a Super Bowl ring. I think there's nothing to prove there. Andy Reid left Philly, right? This is my biggest storyline. Would it be a slap in the face by the universe? I'm not even talking about humans. I'm talking about the laws of averages and human of mankind for Andy Reid to leave Philly. Couldn't get it done in Philly, went and got his championships, went and got multiple trips to the Super Bowl with KC and got his Super Bowl ring. But then now to come back and to just rub it in our face and win against us, like to leave, because he doesn't have many more, he's going to retire within another 5 years, I would say. But for him to come back and meet Philly and just say, you know what? I couldn't get it done there. I went here, got it done, but now I'm coming back just to rub it in your face. I don't like it. I like everything from the X's and O's of what I see Philly against, the hungrier team. But then add that into the spice. I think Philly, the players, the fans, the universe wants to say, like, listen, you couldn't do it for us. We'll do it ourselves.
I think
There you go, Blake. Your thoughts when you hear that?
yeah, if you're looking like, obviously you want to look at data, you want to look at analytics, but if you're looking for like a hidden edge, like on a personal level in the Super Bowl, most people don't know this. Andy Reid fired Sirianni at one point. I believe it was in Kansas City, I believe. And then Sirianni does the journey all over the place, and then Sirianni becomes the head coach of the Eagles. So I think that is going to kind of, if you're looking for a hidden edge for someone that needs motivation, Sirianni getting fired by Andy Reid, he's going to come back and bite him in the ass and beat him in the Super Bowl. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, and let me add this in before we move on. When I'm looking, like you said, X's and O's, numbers, we all know what we have now. There's no more models, no more systems, no more. You guys hear me say this shit. Now it's the feel of the game. Who has the motivation? Kansas City, there might be 3 players on the Eagles team that's still part of that Super Bowl run with Nick Foles. I don't even know. Don't quote me on that. I know of the Kelsey brother. I don't know too many other players that are still around. But Kansas City has their belly been filled the last 5 years of Super Bowls, AFC this, a championship. And then when you look at Jalen Hurts, this motivation has to run deep all the way to Alabama. You hear him in interviews. He thinks that was the wrong choice. He could have got it done. He goes to Oklahoma. People didn't want him. There's a lot of motivation coming out of the Eagles camp, even to the head coach. Like you said, Andy Reid fired him. Where's the motivation? I got to say it's all with Philly. Andy Reid's left Philly to go to better places. I got to take the data, the team, the hunger, the whatever thing, and it all tells me Philly. I got to run with it. I got to put my money with Philly.
I think that's a measure of a game that you can't really measure. Like we're watching the Chargers Jaguars, and you just see in the second half the Chargers they're winning the game, and yet they don't have the momentum. They don't have any kind of fire. The Jags are the ones that are hype on the sidelines. The Jags are getting excited, and you see that translate into the game. You see that translate into the field. So I think Kansas City isn't as hungry as Philadelphia for a Super Bowl, if that makes sense. And so if Kansas City goes down 7-0, is their level of urgency against Philly the same level of urgency that Philly would have against Kansas City if they were down 7? I don't think so. But
I agree.
One thing I wanted to ask Nasty here. So one thing that I really like about the content you create is you seem to have with your experience, a good understanding of how the sports books operate. So I don't think – I want to talk about the line movement in this game and the potential line movement. So I don't think they're going to give us Kansas City +3. I really don't think they're going to give us Kansas City +3. And the public is on Philadelphia right now for the most part. From all the handle data that I have, it looks like the public is on Philadelphia. I think my theory is that later on in the week, maybe next week, they move the line in Kansas City's favor to try and middle the action. And they did this in the Cincinnati game, and they said it was people go on sharps on social media and they're like, it's reverse line movement. But I want to know your thoughts on this. Is it actual reverse line movement due to sharp money, or is it the books moving the line intentionally to middle action?
Now, with this one, listen, guys, and like I said, I lived in Vegas for 10 years, so I met a lot of friends. The land sharks, a lot of people that don't know the term land sharks, they are the sports bookie. They're the sports guys that handle the cage, right? The main guy. Like you have your pit boss that handles the cards. We used to call them land sharks that used to just, they roam the counter. But then anyway, to go into it, the Super Bowl is one of the worst games to try to figure out a line, because you might have someone like at Caesars. The line might be sitting by closer to game time. There's guys flying in on private planes that are dropping 10 mil on one side. Now, do the books try to adjust for that? They can't. They can't just move the line and hope that the public covers that 10 mil. This is one of those days that the Vegas just says, man, I hope I don't get fucking my head cracked. So with the line movement so far, I mean, I think I heard a couple of other sports people talk about, I think we'll look back one day and say, how couldn't we take Mahomes with the points? I think it's very trappy that you think you get Kelsey, Mahomes, and Andy Reid with plus points. I think that's very trappy. I would feel it more comfortable as a sports bettor if they were -1.5, -2. But if I'm looking for the trap scenario here, it's that you're getting the name brand and points. Like Vegas is saying here, we're going to give you Andy Reid, Mahomes, and Kelsey, right? Those are the household names. And just in case they don't get it done, I'm going to give you some points. I don't buy it. I don't like it. It fits my scenario more. And I'm going to run with the Eagles.
So something I've really thought about this season, because obviously I don't have the experience that you have, but we're always trying to learn. Sometimes if in sports betting, the goal is to think contrarian because the public usually loses. But it seems like, especially this season, this was such a weird season in the NFL. Sometimes the contrarian play was the public play, if that makes sense. Like Michigan TCU is the perfect example. I lost a lot of money on Michigan. I told a lot of people to bet on Michigan. I know you did too.
Yeah.
And technically the sharp play, if you look at handle data, is TCU. But the contrarian, like if that's the sharp play, you're thinking contrarian. So what are the books, what's likely to happen? And it's like Michigan. It's like Philadelphia is square technically. But the contrarian thought process from what you just said would be Philadelphia winning by like a touchdown. That's not what anyone's seeing. So it's kind of weird. It's like a football game you're playing with the books.
Right. And I mean, in a normal setting, guys, and I don't know how much time we have, but because I could get deep into this just off of the information I've attained from Vegas and the people who set the lines, is like if a script comes out, right? If the data, they have $1 billion simulation machine, not the stuff we subscribe to for $10 online or whatever. Their simulation machine is sicker than probably something you'd probably get from NASA or the government. They're talking about $1 billion industry. If the machine came out and said Philly wins this game by 10 points or more, they can't give you -10 Philly. Everyone and their mother, they need to balance the book. So then they take somebody, what we call a wise guy now, to take that and say, okay, where can we get the best buck for our bang? And let's set the line so we could balance the books, right? Sometimes I feel like they do give you the line. And sometimes I really believe, if you've seen my chart that I give to my subscribers, where it's like, if you're a home team and they park the line at -2.5, -6.5, -9.5, the key numbers, if they give you the favorite right at the key moment, and you could go back for the last 5 years and check my data, I promise you, they're trying to they want the general public to think, oh, I'm going to take Kansas City -2.5 because all they got to do is win by a field goal. Now, am I saying that's going to happen? No, you should take that into accountability on what you like based on the line that Vegas is trying to give you. And same thing for the home team. I mean, the home dog. If you're getting +3.5, +7.5, +10.5, +14.5, and so on, they're trying to push you, the average person that kind of knows sports, especially the NFL, they're trying to push you to the side to say, hey, I get 2 touchdowns and the hook, right? So they're already trying to push you to one side or the other. And then so you take that into your equation. You should have a chart of everything, like 10 key points on why you're taking a team. And that shouldn't be your number one reason, but that should definitely be in your chart list on why or why not you're not taking a team.
I have one question for the audience, and we're going to clip this. Are you guys fucking listening to this man right now? Are you guys listening? Because I think that's an innate ability. You kind of seem to have like a sixth sense. Like you can sit in a room and be a sharp or a wise guy and say, look, there's a discrepancy, tickets, money. And so I'm going to take the dog every time because the dog is typically the sharp play. But the real contrarian thought process, which is like this, it seems like you have like a sixth sense to kind of sense out the book's ability to manipulate where the bets are going. Because that's kind of, I've learned that the hard way this season, trying to improve at handicapping. It seems like the books aren't necessarily all the time moving the line in regards to the money. They're moving the line based on they want to manipulate the amount of tickets and dollars on one side. Is that something that you think?
1000%. They gotta, and like I said, when you say like the public sometimes right or whatever, the public has to eat or they don't have a business. It'd be a slap in the face of every time the public, didn't get to eat once in a while. That's how you stay hooked, right? The public has to eat. So do I like to be on the public side? No. But am I afraid to bet it if if everything else lines up and the public is like what I'm betting, then so be it. I got to run with it because that's what I'm doing. But with the NFL this year, I think I saw a lot of tricky shit because people are now, this is becoming mainstream for every 21-year-old to fucking 50-year-old trying to make extra cash. They've taught us a lot of lessons that you're not going to tease. You're not going to do a 3-team parlay and we're going to feed you with the favorite in prime time, right? Sunday night, Monday night. You saw a lot of crazy shit this year. And I thought I got hit over the head too with some of this shit. So, were the Bears a better team than the Patriots at home? No. Should that team win? No, they won 3 games, but somehow they go to to New England and just smoke them on Monday night. Like that's just some of the weird shit that happened this year that you're talking about. It was a weird year, but I really believe they're trying to conform us that you better bet straight and you better not be looking for some cherry picking where you're going to add teams and think you're safe, right? And that's just where we have to conform on, like, when everyone goes, well, if it's rigged, then why do you bet? Well, now I got to find the rigged story. You know what I mean? I saw it with Kansas City. And that's why sometimes I bet out of my bets because I'm like, fuck, I'm on the wrong side.
So I'm going to
people call you crazy, or you just got to go, you got to find the feel for this shit. That's it.
I'm going to get a little long-winded here. So there's three examples real quick I want to briefly touch on how weird of a season it was and it explains how hard it is to handicap the NFL. So you have week 1, you have Seattle, Denver. Seattle is the sharp play. The public is massively on Denver. Seattle comes out and beats Denver outright. They don't cover the spread. They outright win. And you're like, okay, so my philosophy, this is my first full season as like, I'm in the business. I'm handicapping. And so I'm like, okay, so this is how the season's going to go. We're going to be smart. We're going to fade the public. We're going to make a lot of money. And then we get to games like fucking Buffalo laying 4 against New England and then absolutely annihilating them. And then the biggest trap game that I think I've seen all season, the Colts giving 3.5 to the Chargers in primetime. And you see the Chargers beat the absolute dog shit out of the Colts with Nick Foles. The books set a 3.5 line with Nick. Did Nick Foles start the game? I think Nick Foles started the game.
I think that's the one where they came in. Yeah, they pulled Matty Ice. Yeah,
and that line makes. I'm sitting here. I'm looking at handicapping this game. I'm like, okay, they're only giving 3.5 points. What's going on here? Where's this? What's the book seeing that I'm not seeing, that they're only 3.5 point favorites? Because in reality, they should be like -10, like you in that example. And so you're playing this constant football game of, are the sharps going to win or is the public going to win? And it's like, it almost seems like the NFL is becoming a product, rather than a football game. It's like becoming since it's becoming so mainstream to bet on it, it's becoming more of like a product that you either invest in or wagering on the outcome of the NFL is becoming more important than the actual football game. You're seeing ESPN and Amazon during primetime games talk about the opening line. Like the commentators are saying the line opened at -1 and it's currently -3. It's pretty crazy to watch.
No, for sure.
Absolutely. And, just for our listeners real quick to give them an idea of what the lines are looking like. Opening line for the Super Bowl was a pick'em and the over-under was at 49.5 here. Now, February 1st, it's Eagles -1.5, and the over-under is at 50.5 right now. When you hear those numbers, you hear that movement. I know you mentioned it before, but what goes through your mind when you're seeing those movements there?
So I would say this is weird. You have, I think the initial dollars, the smart people are on Philadelphia day 1. Then it moves to Philadelphia. It moves to, Philadelphia -1, -1.5, depending on the book. Now you have all this action on Philadelphia. I don't think the books are interested in getting destroyed, financially during the Super Bowl, but we really think Philadelphia is going to win this game. So the question is, how do they get more action on Kansas City? The only way I could see that happening is, the plus, you see Patrick Mahomes. It's college basketball. You do this a lot. You see the better team at plus odds. You're like, I got to take this. But I think since the public is going to be, this is going to be like one of the most bet on Super Bowls ever. Probably is because of all the legalization. I think, and the public loves favorites. My theory is they move the line towards Kansas City, like I said earlier. And a lot of people that think they're smart are going to come on and say, it's reverse line movement. But in my theory is They're trying to get action on Kansas City. I think where the public loses this game is the over-under. The over is going to be very, very public because the narrative is it's a shootout between two elite offenses. I think the under is what is the really – I think the under is where the books are going to clean up in this game. That's my thought.
Nasty, your thoughts when you see those lines?
The line, like I said, I think your Vegas is giving you the household name, right? Andy Reid, Mahomes, and Kelsey, and you get to feel. I told you guys this, and I told everyone it was one of my biggest plays of the year. I think I dropped 10 to 15K on the Cowboys going into Tampa. I'm like, how in the world do you think they're going to give you the GOAT, right? They already beat Dallas week 1. And now they're going to get, just in case Tom Brady doesn't get it done, here's some extra points for the GOAT, right? And what happened? Cowboys wiped them all over the damn field. I feel the same scenario here. I mean, I love a ton of other reasons, but how in the hell are you going to give me Mahomes, who's, right? They already said these guys have experience. They've been to the Super Bowl. They have Andy Reid, the storyline. But just in case they don't get it done, here's a few extra points, right? I think it's a public trap. And maybe I'm a little biased because I'm so heavy already on the Eagles for so many other reasons. But if you were just handing me a piece of paper and said, what are they doing? Anytime they give you household name with points, you gotta, you better taste the water before you start chugging. That's all I gotta say.
And
that's well said.
Yeah,
you gotta appreciate their ability to manipulate where people are betting. Like, I have no idea, and I fell victim to this. This is one they got me on. How in the hell do you look at the season the Cowboys had and the season the Bucs have, the injuries and the roster composition? How in the fuck do you look at these lines and say, Dallas, you're taking Tampa Bay money line, and it's like this game isn't going to be that close. Like, if you look at the actual football of it, Dallas was better than Tampa Bay all season long. Tampa Bay made the playoffs by 1 game. And so their ability to get that many people to bet on Tampa Bay and become a public dog is fucking impressive. I got to give it to them.
Well, guys, you guys got to remember that I've been in line in Vegas when people are in front of me and they go, I got $300. What's the most I could win? And the teller that's taking the money to place the bet is saying, well, if you put it on this team, you will get 3 times your money. And they say, okay, run it. Like, anytime you have someone, and when I say call people square or fish, I'm talking 90% of the sports bettors, and 50 of them are just public play. The other 40, I just feel like are not experienced enough to understand when I say it's a trap. If it tastes and smells and feels so good, you better raise your little spider senses and go, wait a minute, why am I getting Tom Brady plus tons of points? Just in case. It just doesn't make. Now, is that the scenario all the time? Does it always work in your favor? No, something could go wrong and they do a backdoor cover and win the game, But for the most part, if it smells, tastes good, everything feels good, you better start to backpedal and go, wait a minute, let me figure this out because it doesn't feel good. And right now, with them giving Kansas City plus points with the household name and the more experienced team, it's already getting me to think like, wait a minute. I see what side they're going after,
This next point, if Nasty validates me here, then I'm gonna fucking declare I was right and everyone was wrong. Mm-hmm. These fucking boosted player props and these boosted things on FanDuel, like all the legal U.S. books.
1,000%. I look at that.
I'm declaring it. I was right, guys. I was right. You see all these things that are sharp, and then everyone starts making videos about them. Everyone starts saying all this shit like the Army-Navy game. Everyone's like the under. And it's the sharp play because it's historically hit at a crazy rate. But now it's very public. Now that sports betting is much more, accessible. And so these things that are secretly sharp are not sharp anymore. Like this, I see a video today of this guy talking about the opening kickoff in the Super Bowl is always a touchback and you can get it at plus odds. And I'm like, dude, come on. Like, why the books don't give out freebies? The contract incentive, that was another one. All these players, Christian Kirk needs 190 receiving yards to get a $500,000 bonus. That means you need to take his over on yards. I'm like, guys, you got to do, you have no hope. Think logically. They're not giving you free shit. They don't want you to win. I mean, they want you to win a little bit, but they want to win more.
1000%. I tell everyone, if they're boosting it and giving it to you. You know, oh, McCaffrey to score. Did McCaffrey score a touchdown against the Eagles? I don't remember. Did he?
I think he was the only one to score a touchdown against the Eagles.
I think
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah. It was that long, bouncy, runny. I mean, he shouldn't have. So they did get paid on that one, but there was a lot of things for him to score a touchdown. He broke like 3 or 4 tackles to score, right?
Yeah.
But how about the Justin Herbert one where to throw 1 touchdown? Remember that one earlier in the season?
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't even throw a touch. Guess what? The simulation is going to come out and say, based on whatever metrics they put inside the computer lab, if they're boosting it, they're doing it not for you, they're doing it for themselves. And I actually like the boost. The reason I like the boost is because I now use that as a matrix of like, okay, if I'm starting to see a lot of not Cincinnati, like the 49ers, I saw tons and tons of 49er different boosts, right? Purdy to do this, McCaffrey to do this, just tons of stuff, but I didn't really see too much Eagle shit, right? That means, so now it fit into my storyline. Something's going to go wrong. Something's going to, happen here. But yeah, definitely follow those boosts. Vegas is not giving you free shit, free points, free money, free nothing. And so I'm 1,000. I add that into my equation now.
People don't know how these sports books operate. Like they're really smart. This is the perfect marketing tool. You take it, it's a bad bet, so you probably lose. If you don't lose and you win, it's like, oh, I won. I need to continue betting. It's the best marketing tool I've ever seen because they They can't lose. If you win money, and you just bet more. And if you're the public, you're probably losing long term. And if you lose, okay, fuck it, you lost your money. And then they can't lose. It's pretty much like impossible. Like what I look out for when you see like a obscure sports book open up a line like Brock Purdy opened up on Barstool at 1.5 interceptions instead of half an interception. And that's something that's not a boosted player prop. That's something I look at as like, well, okay, this book knows something because they're offering you under 1.5 interceptions at like plus 600. And if Purdy plays that entire game and doesn't get hurt, there's a good chance he throws 2 picks, especially since they're going to be slinging the ball. So those are the things.
Nasty, I actually did have a question for you there. When you're looking at edges, you look at a lot of things, looking at the storylines, the lines, what's a trap, what's not. One thing we look at here at MVP Consulting is referee stats. How much of referee stats do you factor into your own equations?
I can go down, like if I have time to focus on one game, I have a whole site. There's a whole site out there, and I have it bookmarked because it's like a weird name, but there's a whole site that has nothing but referee fucking stats. What do they do in the weather? What are this one? When they have the back judge or whatever, this team throws more flags on running play, whatever. Something like this game, I'll definitely look to see who the head, I like to see like where they're from, where they're, are they closer to the Eagles region? Because these guys are humans. If they're reffing football, they love football, right? I don't care. Even though they're not supposed to declare it or put it on social media, these guys love football. So they come from somewhere, and if you dig deep enough, if you find out like where their hometown is, I promise you'll figure out what region of the world they kind of love. If they're from Texas or Arizona or something, I promise you they're probably a Cowboys or Arizona fan, growing up. But with that being said, do I make it a huge equation? No, but I'll definitely go down the rabbit hole.
From something that we've done, this year, we didn't blindly do it, but you can look at certain refs, like you can go to the extremes. Like Torbert is an extreme under ref. So, if you simply bet his under every single game all season long, and he's hitting at 70% clip, fuck, you're up 7-8 units. What I've been trying to get people to understand is these referees are systems in and of themselves. Like there's games I'm looking at, Ron Torbert's the fucking ref in primetime, tease the under up, fucking take the under. It's like, it's stuff that we're trying to get people to look at that matter like a lot. Like these refs are put into place and they ref certain games for a reason. There's a reason Ron Torbert ref the Chiefs game. There's a fucking reason for it. He calls disproportionately calls against the away team. He calls, and maybe it's not the ref that's corrupt, but the NFL is able to analyze what these calls are and then place these refs in the ideal spot to get their outcome. That's a theory. I don't know. Maybe I'm fucking crazy.
Right. And just to jump into this and to go back to your theory about the Army Navy game, you guys know that when they set the line, it was what, 17-1 that the under hit, right? But I don't know if you guys knew this, and the reason I took the over is because if I took now the new line they gave us, which was 32.5 or something, right? They try to slap us all in the face and say, we dare you. If you went back under those 17 same games with the new line that they gave us, it was now like 10-6. I mean 10 and what was it? 10-7, whatever it was. But it was more closer to a 50-50, right? So now if you're going to give me a 50-50 line, I'm now also going to use in laws of averages. Everyone's going to say, well, you got lucky when it overtime. Well, listen, it was just happened to be that they're slapping me in the face with the new line that is a 50-50 line, basically. And now you're going to give me the odds of saying, like, listen, they're due to something crazy to go wrong. I'll take it every time. And that's how you have to, like, go down and start checking what Vegas is trying to do to us.
1,000 fucking %. I said this before the game. I said, this line is at 32. Historically, this line is not at 32, and this line should be at 36, 37, 38, and it's at 32. The books adjust. The player prop contract incentives, perfect example. Evan Ingram, tight end, he needs, 73 yards to get a massive bonus. His average prop all year long is between 45 and 55 receiving yards. You look at FanDuel or something, it's at like 68.5. The books adjust, people. They're not giving you shit for free.
1,000%. You just the name of the game, guys, is understand the game, watch the game, get a feel for the game. Throw in laws of averages. It's a real thing. It's beyond us. It's not a law for a reason. And when people go, well, you're one of those guys that say it's going to be black if it hit 10 reds. Well, guess what? That's not truly how laws of averages work. You take a sample size. Your sample size I'm not taking the whole season. I'm taking the sample size and maybe breaking it down per division, per conference, whatever it is. And then I use it. I don't use it on every single one of my picks, but if it shows up, just for a quick how I'm looking at this. You have Nebraska, right? Yesterday. They're playing. I don't even know who they're playing. I didn't even care. They almost lost by 20 points 3 games in a row now. I was really big on Kansas covering the spread in college basketball, and I was like, there's no way Vegas is giving K-State plus 8.5. It just doesn't work like that. But just to be safe, I took Kansas money line, which was an easy win. I didn't sweat it at all, maybe the first 5 minutes. But then in FanDuel, I lifted Nebraska back to 20 points, right? Plus 20. They're already like down. I think they were like plus 11.5, plus 12. So I made it really juicy and put it 20. And I told the universe, I said, listen, you show me that this team's going to just keep losing by 20, right? And sure enough, they lost by 15 or 16, right? But that sooner or later, Nebraska's going to come out and they're either going to cover the spread naturally or they're going to win a game. So now, in my little spider sense world, I'm going to keep using Nebraska to give me lines that I want. So next game Nebraska plays, plus 20. Next game, until they either cover the spread or until they win a game. They're not going to just keep getting blown out by 20. Something's going to change. Losers make adjustments. Winners keep doing what they do. And you have to understand shit like that. So now I'm going to use that as my next tool to start parlaying whatever I want. Maybe they play on Friday and there's about 3 other games I like. I'm going to move those to money line and put Nebraska at plus 20. Use what the universe is giving you. That's all I'm saying.
That's well said, Nasty. If you guys aren't following Nasty already, you can follow him on TikTok at Nasty Sports. He's got a lot of gems that he just dropped on us in this podcast and a lot more on his lives and his pages there. We are coming to the end of our podcast now, running out of a little bit of time here. So, fellas, just your final thoughts on the Super Bowl. Blay, we'll start with you and then on to Nasty after that.
I'm going to make my prediction right now. I'm going to say, well, I can't make my prediction because we're handicappers, but I will say, if Philadelphia takes a meaningful lead in this game, I know this sounds, the squarest shit I've ever said. Philadelphia takes a lead of 10 or more points, just like in the Niners game. Kansas City will not be able to come back and win this game. And this is not the game. This is a game that could get out of hand. This is not a game that you should just blindly bet on Patrick Mahomes covering a spread. If the game is live and Philly's up 10-0, this is not the game that you just say, oh, Patrick Mahomes is going to cover 7 live, guaranteed. No. This is the kind of game that is a matchup nightmare for Kansas City. If they cannot run the ball, Andy Reid, run the fucking ball. If you do not establish the run, Patrick Mahomes is going to get destroyed and you're going to get blown out. Do with that information what you will. That's my thought process.
Yep, and you guys already know I'm wearing the jersey, not just because I'm a fan, but I'm putting my money on it. Since 2013, I think I've lost 2 Super Bowls, and that's when Carolina couldn't get it done against an old Manning with Denver, when they didn't even score a touchdown and won the Super Bowl. So I'll take that as a fluke. And then 2, again, Tom Brady, the GOAT, came back against Atlanta. I truly believe that this is the game for Philly on every level. I'm taking Philly, and just like he said, if Philly gets the lead and they make Kansas City one-dimensional where the dogs could pin their ears and chase Mahomes, it's going to be a long fucking game, and you guys are going to be eating a lot of fucking Doritos. I'll tell you that much. You'll be sad eating Doritos all damn day.
I got one question. Give me out of 10 your confidence level in Philadelphia.
Right now, not being biased, not being anything, on the level of me saying like I love Philly about an 80% right now.
8 out of 10. Day of the Super Bowl. 10. Day of the Super Bowl, you open your phone, you scroll through TikTok, you see Book It with Trent has Philadelphia money line. Well, how confident are you feeling?
I actually get sad because he, to me, and not because he's bad, and I don't think, because listen, everyone goes, oh, he's trying to lose. Listen, trying to lose is just as hard as trying to win. But I really believe that Trent is our poster boy for what us, and I like Trent. I've talked to him on the phone. I've seen him places, and he knows this. I say, dude, you are the poster boy for being square or fishy. He's getting better, though, because he does his podcast where he talks to other people. So I think he's getting more of a feel for it, but it does make me sad because if he's wearing an Eagles shit and putting an Eagles helmet on, I'm going to be very sad. I don't think he will. I think, watch, you will see Trent follow the line and follow Andy Reid, Kelsey, and Mahomes. I just think he will.
He's definitely built a great brand. I'm a fan. He's built a great brand on that.
Oh, for sure.
And of course, irony is real. Like the one time he's one leg away from the surgical 6. I'm like, there's no way he's hitting this shit. It's the Cowboys, Colts. And I lose $2,000 because I'm like, there's no way this guy's fucking losing. Or this guy's hitting a surgical 6. What do you know? Guy hits a fucking surgical 6 and I lose. And so that was a good time.
Real quick, I know you guys got to go, but there was one game where I saw his surgical 6 and he missed all 5 games. And I said, there's no way this guy can fucking go like laws of averages, right? And sure enough, I already liked the game, but I pounded like a G on the game because I was like, there's no way he picks fucking 6 straight losers. And sure enough, he ended up, we won that game. But it made me feel confident that I saw he didn't win. It's hard to pick 6 losers.
Let me ask you before we go. I know we're crunched on time, but I got into a big fucking Twitter argument with, these guys who are bragging about being up 7-8 units against the spread over the course of a season. The big media guys who are not very good at what they do, in my opinion. But so I think we both have different approaches to betting on sports. I was saying, look, I was with you on Michigan. I was like, look, you need to parlay. I was on Georgia. I was like against Ohio State, and it was a fucking sweat. They should have lost the game. Yeah. And so I'm saying, look, guys, if you want to profit long-term sports betting, you cannot bet like everyone else. If you're betting solely against the spread and you're paying for someone's services and you net 10 units on the season, when you factor in the juice, and how much you're paying them for picks, you didn't make any money. So you have to find ways to be different, which is what I think you do a very good job of, which is what drew me to your content.
Yeah, no, I am somebody, and I tell you, everyone, I drag my balls. There's only one way you could approach sports betting is you're disciplined when you're even or when you're behind, right? So, do the bankroll management, do your 1%, fucking one unit. But when you gain fucking money, right? The I'll tell you this, the sports books are in big fucking trouble if I'm up 50K on a season, because I have no problems and on a random Saturday saying, you know what, I really like this, I'm going to drop fucking 30K on this one game. You won't find too many people who do that. You know why? Is because I know the process that the sports betting is just like sitting at the blackjack table. They want you to sit there and play and play and play and play. They're going to get you. It's coming. So if you're not pressing your profits, what are you doing this for? Right? Like, what are you doing? And let me give everyone advice. I don't know how many subscribers you guys have or viewers or whatever. So whoever finds this, always have a fucking end game. Have a goal. Because if not, you're going to get caught just being a sports bettor. Like me, last year, I went from 2 years ago, I won about $80,000 in an NFL season. And I told myself, I had a little goal and I have pictures of it. I said, if I win 100,000, I'm just going to go buy a brand new truck. Fuck it. And I sure did. I ended up winning $80,000. I went straight to MGM, pulled my cash out. I have video of me going straight to the dealer, putting cash on the table, driving my truck away. If you don't do that, you're just going to be I call it a one-legged fucking duck. You're just doing circles for nothing. So at the end of the day, have a goal. Every season, you have to have a goal. Like, I want to take my family on vacation. I want to do this. I want to do whatever it is. But when you accomplish that goal or get the money, go do it. Because if not, you just turn into a guy that's betting and chasing. What the fuck are you chasing? You know, you gotta have a goal to what you're doing.
A lot of guys have gotten, like, I don't want to call them like nerds, but they're so focused on fucking betting 5 plays every day, and they've got to net units every day. You got to look at sports betting in terms of fucking cash and money. A snake only has to eat once every 3 months because it finds something. So let's say you're up 10 units and you're $100 better and you have $1,000 to play with. You go find that game that has value. For us, we were big on fucking Green Bay beating Miami. We were 95% sure that was going to happen. It fucking happened. That's the game. Does this follow betting discipline necessarily to a T? No. But if you want to make this worthwhile and make real money doing this, you have to be able to, like Nasty said, capitalize on what you have. You have to be able to scale, basically, like a business. A business wants to grow like this. You don't want to fucking grow small like this. You want to grow wide. So if you get a play that you really, really like, sometimes you take the traditional betting aspect that you followed out of it, because you got to think outside of the box sometimes. It's all about thinking contrarian.
1,000%.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could leave it off on that. I mean, Nasty, would love to talk to you some more. We should have you back on the pod because this has been fantastic. So
whenever.
Shout out to Nasty from Nasty Sports. If you want to throw in some plugs right now, please go ahead.
Hold on.
What's that? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I thought we were cutting. You're good. My fault.
Oh, no, I was just saying, if you want to follow me, just find me on social media. You know, I'm not the biggest guru with technology. I'm getting better. I have my own service. I'm trying to just create like a Netflix type of service where it's $10 a month, and I'm trying to get as many people as I can help. If you want to do that, just find me on TikTok, and I'll lead you to the fucking promised land.
There you go. Find him on TikTok at Nasty Sports. You see that beautiful face, you're at the right place. So that covers episode 4 of the Make Vegas Pay podcast. If you enjoyed this and want more, subscribe to our YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter with the Make Vegas Pay handle. Links will be in the description below, and we'll also send you to Nasty's page as well. Thank you for listening. And Nasty, again, thank you so much for coming on the pod.